your fear. Fear shows up in moments that matter. It's the sharp inhale before a big decision, the hesitation in your chest before speaking your truth, the tension in your hands before making a bold move. Most people feel fear and take it as a sign to stop, to turn around, to wait for a safer time. But fear doesn't come to stop you. It comes to announce that you are standing on the edge of something significant. You don't feel fear when you're doing something easy. You don't feel fear when you're stuck in routine or hiding in the shadows of your comfort zone. Fear only shows up when the next step actually matters. It is the body's signal, the mind's reaction, and the soul's alarm that what you're about to do has the potential to stretch you, and stretching always comes before strength. Fear is not a blockade, it's a compass. It's pointing to the direction of growth. It's a reaction designed to prepare you, not paralyze you. It wakes up your senses, raises your awareness, and gives you the edge to operate in excellence if you learn to manage it. But most people misinterpret it. They think fear means stop. Instead of understanding, it means pay attention. This is a moment that matters. It's easy to confuse fear with danger, but they are not the same thing. Danger is real. Fear is a response. Just because something feels uncomfortable or unknown doesn't mean it's unsafe. It might mean it's unfamiliar. But if you live your life running from everything that feels unfamiliar, you'll be a prisoner to your past and a stranger to your potential. The people who create impact in this world, who build legacies and break cycles, they feel fear too. The difference is they don't serve it. They acknowledge it, but they don't bow to it. They understand that fear often shows up as resistance right before a breakthrough. It's the emotional barrier standing between who you are and who you're becoming. Fear sharpens the moment. It brings intensity. And within that intensity lies opportunity. The opportunity to grow in faith, to rise in power, to develop a version of yourself that can only be forged under pressure. When you understand that fear is just feedback, not a forecast, you stop treating it like a dictator and start treating it like data. You can feel fear and still be powerful. You can be nervous and still be ready. In fact, the presence of fear might be the confirmation you've been waiting for that this is the thing worth doing. Fear doesn't come when you're wasting time. Fear shows up when you're about to shift time, when you're about to make a decision that ripples into the future. Most people want to wait until the fear goes away before they act, not realizing the act itself is the antidote. Fear doesn't fade with time, it fades with obedience. It's in the doing, in the movement, that fear begins to lose its grip. But if you keep hesitating, you feed it. You give it ground, you let it grow in the silence of your inaction. And here's what's deeper. Sometimes the fear you feel is the fear of your own greatness. The fear that if you step into this calling, you'll no longer be able to hide. That if you succeed, the excuses disappear. Fear can be a disguise for responsibility. It says, what if you fail? But what it really means is, what if you succeed and now you have to live up to it? Fear is not the enemy. It is the tension before transformation, the pressure before progress, the friction before flight. It is the sign that you're alive, that you're being called, that you're on the threshold of something that matters. Boldness is not a personality trait. It's a decision. It's a decision to stand up when you feel like shrinking. It's a choice to speak when your voice shakes, to move forward even when the path isn't clear. Boldness is not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear dictate your future. It's the inner agreement that says, even if I feel uncertain, I will act anyway. And that agreement becomes the bridge that takes you from where you are to where you're destined to be. There are people living beneath their potential not because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity, but because they lacked the boldness to seize the moment. They waited for perfect conditions. They waited for applause. They waited until they felt ready. But readiness is a myth. There is no perfect moment. There is only a decision to trust the vision enough to move while it still feels uncomfortable. The reason boldness matters is because breakthrough never happens in comfort. Comfort zones don't produce growth, they preserve limitations. Every breakthrough in life, whether spiritual, financial, emotional, or relational, requires the courage to break through something, resistance, fear, opinions, or even your own self-doubt. That's where boldness comes in. It becomes the battering ram that crashes through the invisible wall between average and extraordinary. Boldness disrupts the status quo. It's disruptive by nature. It doesn't blend in, it stands out. It doesn't ask for permission, it steps into position. And because of that, boldness always feels risky, but that risk is the very soil where greatness grows. If you always play it safe, you'll always live beneath what's possible. Safety is a ceiling, and boldness is the hammer that shatters it. You don't need to have all the answers to be bold. Boldness doesn't require certainty, only conviction. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You just need enough trust to know that your vision is worth fighting for. Too many people delay their destiny because they're waiting for clarity, but often clarity comes after movement, not before. Boldness is the catalyst that sets that movement in motion. Think about every defining moment in history. Behind every revolution, every innovation, every shift in culture, there was a person or group of people who decided to be bold. They chose to speak up, step out, and push boundaries. And they did it knowing the risk, knowing the criticism, knowing the sacrifice, but also knowing that the world doesn't change until someone chooses to challenge what's been accepted for too long. Boldness is what turns ideas into impact. You can sit on $1 million idea for decades and never see a dime, not because the idea was bad, but because you never had the boldness to act on it. Boldness takes your thoughts and makes them tangible. It turns intention into execution. It translates desire into destiny. Without it, even the best ideas remain buried in hesitation. And let's be clear, boldness doesn't mean being loud. It's not arrogance or bravado. True boldness is quiet confidence that refuses to settle. It's the internal fire that says, there's more for me than this. It's the invisible push that makes you raise your hand when no one else will, start the business when no one believes, or walk away from what's good to pursue what's great. You can't fake boldness. When it shows up, it shifts the room, it moves things, it inspires others to rise. But here's the secret, boldness isn't given, it's chosen. Every day you have the opportunity to be bold in your decisions, in your voice, in your vision. Every time you do, you build a bridge toward your breakthrough. Because that next level you've been praying for, it's on the other side of one bold move. The reason boldness is the bridge is because it requires you to let go of where you are. A bridge always starts on one side and ends on another. You can't cross halfway and turn around. You can't cling to comfort and expect transformation. Boldness forces you to burn the boats, silence the doubt, and take steps that feel bigger than your experience, but perfectly sized for your calling. Fear rarely shows up in your life looking like a monster. It doesn't kick in the door and announce its presence. No, fear is far more subtle than that. It disguises itself in words that sound reasonable. It puts on the voice of caution, the tone of wisdom, and the rhythm of what feels like logic. It says things like, now isn't the right time, or you need to do more research, or what if it doesn't work? These sound like responsible thoughts, but the truth is, they are often just fear in a business suit. The dangerous part is that it's easy to agree with these thoughts because they don't feel like fear, they feel like strategy. You convince yourself that you're not afraid, you're just planning. But planning without action becomes procrastination. And procrastination is one of fear's favorite hiding places. It convinces you that you're preparing while really you're delaying. You're waiting for a certainty that will never come. And fear is winning without ever raising its voice. Fear loves to present itself as protection. It tries to guard you from embarrassment, failure, rejection, or pain, but in trying to protect you, it robs you. It steals time. It steals moments of courage. It steals chances you never take and doors you never knock on. It doesn't just keep you from failing, it keeps you from trying. That's why fear lies like a thief. It doesn't just want to stop you, It wants to quietly rob you of everything you're meant to become. Fear speaks the language of limitation. It calculates every risk, but never measures reward. It highlights every possible downside, but refuses to acknowledge the upside. It will give you every reason why it won't work, and none of the faith for why it could. It sounds rational, but it's radically misleading. It convinces you to play small while convincing you that small is smart. But in reality, it's just safe, and safe never built anything worth remembering. People don't realize how many of their decisions are being made from fear disguised as logic, turning down opportunities, saying no to growth, staying in environments that don't serve them, calling it loyalty or patience when really it's fear of discomfort. Fear of starting over, fear of what people will say, and because it feels justified, they stay stuck, but stuck in what looks like safety is still stuck. Fear will tell you that waiting makes you wise. But wisdom isn't the same as hesitation. Wisdom moves with discernment, not delay. Fear delays because it doesn't want you to grow. It doesn't want you to take a risk that might actually reveal how much potential is inside of you. Because once you see what you're capable of, fear loses its grip. So it keeps you talking in circles, planning but never doing, dreaming but never building. Fear sounds logical when it says, don't get your hopes up. It sounds protective when it says, stay quiet. You don't want to be judged. But all it's doing is dimming your light before it has a chance to shine. It sounds noble, but it's really nervous. It only cares about your purpose. It only cares about your protection. And it's so subtle, you won't even realize it's robbing you until you look back and wonder why you never moved. Even in relationships, fear masks itself with logic. You're better off alone. People always disappoint. Don't be too vulnerable. It pretends to keep you safe, but what it really does is keep you isolated. It convinces you to avoid the pain of connection, but in doing so, you also miss out on the beauty of intimacy, trust, and growth that only happens when you're willing to risk being seen. When you're chasing purpose, fear will always try to sound like your conscience. It will even quote facts. It will remind you of past failures. It will bring up old wounds. It will use your own voice against you. And because it sounds so familiar, you'll believe it. But just because something feels true doesn't mean it is true. Fear will use fragments of truth to build a case for inaction. But the conclusion it leads you to will always be the same. Don't move. That's how fear steals, quietly, logically, and with your permission. It doesn't need to break down your dreams in one big moment. All it has to do is delay you a little longer. Wait another day. Stay where it's safe. Shrink a little more. Hide a little better. And before you know it, it's taken what you never even tried to protect, your destiny. There is no breakthrough without confrontation. Anything you avoid has power over you. Anything you refuse to face becomes your silent master. You can't conquer what you pretend isn't there. You can't overcome what you constantly excuse. The things you keep sweeping under the rug don't disappear, they multiply. They grow in the dark and they wait for moments of weakness to show themselves. Confrontation is not about chaos, it's about clarity. It's about saying this thing ends here and it ends with me. Most people don't avoid problems because they don't know they exist. They avoid them because the confrontation feels uncomfortable. But comfort is not the same as peace. You can feel comfortable in dysfunction just because it's familiar. You can be at war internally while keeping up the appearance of calm externally. And eventually, that internal pressure becomes too much to carry. What you won't confront will eventually confront you at the worst possible time in the worst possible way. You have to confront your fear if you want freedom. You have to confront your doubt if you want clarity. You have to confront your laziness if you want results. Nothing leaves your life until you deal with it honestly. You can't heal from what you keep denying. Denial might delay the discomfort, but it also delays the deliverance. It keeps you stuck in cycles, repeating the same patterns, wondering why nothing is changing when the truth is change is waiting on you. Confrontation doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean drama. It means shining light where darkness has been tolerated for too long. It means telling the truth first to yourself, then to the world around you. Sometimes that truth is, I've been settling. Sometimes it's, I've been scared. Sometimes it's, I've let pain define me. But until you name the thing, you can't claim the victory over it. What you refuse to name, you will never have authority over. It's not just about confronting external things either. Some of the hardest confrontations happen inside. The mindset that keeps telling you you're not good enough. The story you've been telling yourself about why you can't succeed. The lies that have been passed down from generation to generation disguised as wisdom. These are strongholds. And strongholds don't break through avoidance. They break when you bring truth into the battle. You can't confront what you keep normalizing. If you keep calling dysfunction just how life is, you will never rise above it. If you keep calling insecurity humility, you'll never grow in confidence. If you keep calling fear being cautious, you'll never take the steps you need to move forward. Language matters. What you call a thing determines how you treat it. And too many people stay bound because they've given their chains a polite name. There's a reason confrontation feels spiritual, because it is. When you confront something that's been keeping you bound, you're stepping into your authority. You're saying, I'm no longer agreeing with this limitation. That's power. That's spiritual warfare. That's how cycles get broken and destinies get unlocked. You don't need more motivation. You need confrontation. You need to say out loud, this ends now. Avoidance may feel easier in the moment, but it's far more costly in the long run. What you ignore today becomes the problem you drag into tomorrow, and eventually it becomes the weight you carry into your future. The business you didn't start, the forgiveness you didn't extend, the vision you didn't pursue, all because you didn't confront the fear behind it. And that weight doesn't disappear, it compounds. Confrontation is how you reclaim your life. You reclaim your identity. You reclaim your peace. Some people are so used to chaos, they've made peace with it. But the moment you confront it, you shift the atmosphere. You interrupt the pattern. You send a signal that you're no longer willing to live below your calling, that you're no longer available for bondage disguised as balance. You cannot pray away what you are unwilling to face. Faith is not avoidance. Faith is action. Faith says, even though this scares me, even though this challenges me, I'm going to face it head on, because facing it is the only way through. You will never conquer anything you're still comfortable with. And as long as you refuse to confront it, you give it permission to remain. Courage doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's not some mystical feeling that shows up when the stars align. Courage is created, forged in the fire of movement. Most people wait to feel courageous before they take action, not realizing that the action is what produces the courage. The first step might be shaky, the voice might tremble, the hands might sweat, but it's in the doing that fear begins to lose its grip and confidence begins to rise. You don't get stronger by sitting still. Muscles grow under resistance. Boldness grows under pressure. Waiting might feel safer, but it doesn't prepare you. It doesn't build you. All it does is deepen the doubt. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. The more time you give hesitation, the more power it has to control your next move. Waiting doesn't reduce fear, it reinforces it. People confuse waiting with wisdom, but there's a difference between patience and paralysis. Wisdom is preparation with intention. Fear is delay wrapped in justification. You can spend years waiting on a sign when the truth is the sign is your desire to move. That dream, that goal, that calling, it's already the confirmation you need. Now it's time to take steps, even if they're small, because every step chips away at fear's control. Movement gives you momentum, and momentum builds belief. Every small action becomes evidence that you're capable. Every time you act in spite of fear, your nervous system rewires itself to trust you, not trust the outcome, trust you. That means your identity starts to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates and start believing you're someone who moves, someone who leads, builds, and transforms. There are people with brilliant ideas, God-given gifts, and powerful dreams, but they've been stuck in neutral for years because they keep waiting to feel ready. But readiness is not a prerequisite. It's a result. You rarely feel ready before you start, but something changes in you the moment you begin. And what changes you is not thinking about the journey, it's taking the first step into it. When you move, you learn. You learn what works and what doesn't. You grow your discernment. You sharpen your instincts. You uncover strengths you didn't know you had. And even when you fail, you don't lose. You learn faster. Failure in motion still moves you forward. But waiting in fear keeps you exactly where you are, replaying what ifs instead of creating what's possible. Courage isn't built in the comfort zone. It's built in the stretch. The decision to apply, the decision to speak, the decision to invest, the decision to try again after failing. It's those repeated acts of motion that begin to stack into confidence. Not because everything went perfectly, but because you kept moving. You stopped being impressed with safety and started being committed to growth. You don't need a master plan to move. You just need obedience in the direction of your purpose. One obedient step leads to another, and over time, those steps create paths. And those paths create possibilities. Movement puts you in position. It brings you into proximity with people, opportunities, and resources that your waiting could never find. But it all starts with motion. Stillness may feel spiritual, but it can also be a cover for fear. There's a time for prayer and a time for pursuit, a time for vision and a time for motion. And when you get those confused, you end up frustrated, wondering why nothing's changing. When God's been waiting on you to move, the power isn't in what you're waiting for, it's in what you're willing to walk toward. The lie is that you need to feel courageous to start. But the truth is, you need to start to feel courageous. Courage is not a prerequisite, it is a byproduct. It comes as you move, as you speak, as you step. The longer you wait, the heavier fear becomes. But the moment you move, you start to remember who you really are. Regret is the silent price you pay for choosing comfort over courage, safety over growth, and certainty over possibility. It doesn't appear all at once. It builds slowly, silently, like a slow leak in a tire. At first, it's easy to ignore. You tell yourself, I'll do it later, or I'm just not ready yet. But what you don't realize is that each small decision to stay small is one step closer to a future you'll wish you could have changed. When you play small, you protect yourself from risk, but you also protect yourself from reward. You avoid rejection, but you also avoid success. You keep your dreams in the realm of possibility, but never give them the fuel to become reality. The risk of playing small isn't just about missing out on opportunities. It's about the regret you carry when you look back and realize that the only thing standing between you and your potential was the choice to stay in your comfort zone. Playing small doesn't mean you're not working hard or that you're not doing your best. It means you're settling for less than what you were created for. It means you're hiding your light, dimming your potential, and choosing the easy road because it feels safer. But the easy road doesn't lead to fulfillment, it leads to quiet dissatisfaction, where you look around at your life and wonder why you don't feel the joy or excitement you thought you would have by now. Regret grows in that quiet discontent. People don't regret the things they tried and failed at. They regret the things they never tried at all. The goals left on the shelf. The calls never made. The opportunities never pursued. Those are the regrets that sting the hardest. They're the ones that can't be erased, no matter how many times you tell yourself it didn't matter. The truth is, it does matter. It matters because you were meant to do more, to be more. And when you don't pursue that potential, it's not just a missed opportunity, it's a piece of you left behind. You can live your whole life waiting for the perfect time, but that time will never come. The longer you wait, the more you'll miss. The longer you put off the hard decisions, the greater the regret that will follow. Every moment you choose to play small is a moment you can never get back. You might tell yourself that you'll try tomorrow or next year, but the truth is, the more you wait, the more difficult it becomes to take that first step. The pain of regret is often worse than the pain of failure. Failure is temporary. It's a setback, a lesson learned, a challenge faced, but regret is permanent. It lingers long after the missed opportunity is gone. It's a feeling that doesn't just fade with time, it becomes embedded in your life's narrative. It's the weight that drags you down in your quietest moments, when you start to realize all the things you could have accomplished if only you had chosen differently. The danger of playing small is that you might never fully understand what you're capable of. You'll always be wondering, what if I had tried? What if I had spoken up? What if I had taken that leap? And those what ifs will haunt you forever. You might look at others who took risks, made bold moves, and achieved things you've only dreamed of, and wonder why you didn't do the same. The only difference is that they didn't let fear stop them. They didn't let the uncertainty paralyze them. The cost of playing small isn't just the missed opportunities, it's the person you become in the process. Every time you hold back, every time you shrink, you reinforce the belief that you're not enough. You convince yourself that you're not capable of handling the next level of success, that the risks are too high, and that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. But the truth is, failure isn't the enemy. Stagnation is. The person who never fails is the person who never grows. You are the architect of your future, and every small choice you make builds the life you'll look back on. You can choose to push past fear, to step outside of what feels comfortable, to stretch your limits, and to expand your capacity, or you can play small and let regret build a house in your heart. Playing small might feel safe now, but as time goes on, it will feel like a prison you built for yourself, brick by brick, moment by moment. When you step out, when you take bold actions, when you push past the boundaries you set for yourself, you create a life of fulfillment. A life that doesn't look back with regret, but forward with gratitude. The cost of playing small is the life you never got to live. The price of regret is the weight of all the things you could have done, the places you could have gone, the person you could have become. If only you had chosen courage over comfort.